How y'all doing? Well, I'm going to do a game review here for you all, and this one, since I'm doing this in October, I'm going to do something that would be very appropriate for Halloween themes. You know, nice, dark, atmospheric type of game, and that is Escape the Dark Castle. It's a very nice board game. I found out about it through On Tabletop website, and I wanted to look into it myself there. So, what I like about this is that it's very simple to play. I mean, once you get the rules down, it doesn't take long. It's very thin, but when you do, you're very quick to set up and very easy to get going to it. But despite its simplicity, it is not easy because, and I'll explain that in a moment. So here's the idea. Escaping Dark Castle is that you're going to escape a dark castle. You are a group of prisoners wrongfully in prison, and you found a way to escape, and as you're trying to do so, you have to go through a series of obstacle events, fighting monsters and such, through chapter cards. And you know, each character that you choose a character of one of the prisoners, and they have their own attributes. Now you go through it. You go through about 15 chapters, and you go through a boss. And if you beat the boss, you win. Here's the challenging part: you have to all escape alive together. It's 2 to 4 players. Everyone has to live through it. If one person dies, the game is over. You have to start again. So. And the game wants to play on just the atmosphere about it, nice simple thing. The artwork is very appealing because it's a reminiscence of the old 80s and 90s board game artwork involving fantasies. If many of you who were into Hero Quest, there's a fantasy board game before Dungeons, nice starting of Dungeons and Dragons before you, without the role-playing elements. It's a nice little fantasy board game. They had a lot of cards with black and white interior artwork. This artwork is very reminiscent of that. Or I think one YouTube commenter of this game said it reminded him of Choose Your Own Adventure book by Steve Jackson Games, Tower of Chaos. So if you're interested, if that appeals to you, this is a great game to do to get into that. Now, there's a core game that I have here, but it has 3 expansions, 2 of which I got. I have let's see. The Cult of the Death Knight, and there's also the Scourge of the Undead Queen. There's a third one, that's Blight of the Plague Lord. I didn't get that one yet. I may go ahead and get that later on. But the core game is, is just enough for, of course. And the expansions are optional. They add new rules, new little things to make it a bit more of a challenge. So let's take a look at what we got here. So there you are. This is the beautiful box art of this. It's all black and white, so let's take a look inside. Normally we wrap in cellophane, of course, that should go without saying. And I didn't open it up everything else yet, so this is what you got. You got the instructions, and as I said, there is very little instructions, tell you all that you need to know. And once you read this, and you can watch a couple examples there, like the one I'm going to show you, you should get into play really quickly if you want to do into this. Now, what else does it come with? Well, let's see. We got chapter cards. These are the main focus of the game. You have 1 card to start off with as you escape prisoners, and you'll have 1 of 3 bosses you'll choose at random to add to the bottom of this. And there's 45 of the cards in between the individual chapters cards, but for every game you're going to choose 15. Now maybe you make some house rules and want to up the ante a bit to try some more and see how far you can go, but you may want to try starting the starter ones for right now. Now, in addition to this, there's some item cards. Throughout the game, you'll find some items between each chapters or whenever certain situations say so. And you got this one's an example: Warp Cudgel, one-handed. Once per round of combat, when you roll might, it gives you special abilities that give you a hand in battle. So there's that. There's also dice. What's interesting about this is that the black dice are for your opposition, particularly monsters. Each character that you choose from will have their own individual dice because each character has their own attribute. Some will be better in might, some will be better in cunning, some will be better in wisdom. And fortunately, each one was marked with their own, as you see, the cook, the smith, the abbot, the tailor, and what have you. The tanner and the miller. There are, let's see, 6 characters you could choose from, and you can see how far you can go. And during the course of the gameplay, you'll see where all this comes in. Now, there's also a notepad, and some pencils. And you could probably Xerox these, or probably if you have your own pencil and paper, it's no big deal. These are just to keep track of your life. So there you go. It's everything you need right here. So, let's see if I can open this up and see what we got. All right. This may take a minute. All right. I'm going to try not to spoil too much, because part of the fun is not, or at least when you're first starting out, is to not show things like the bosses and all that stuff. So, okay, so we got the initial part out of the way. Here we go. Yeah, that's more like it. So let's see what we got. Turn this one to begin. This is your starting card, and it's, you know, and part of the deal of the game there's some atmospheric text that you must read as you do this to try and get into the theme and immersion of the game. After years of incarceration in the depths of Dark Castle, you finally break free of your cell. In the small storeroom adjoining the cell block stands an old wooden chest. The lock is open. And, you know, you can follow the instructions as you go along. And these are just some of the sample things that you come out. As I said, these, you know, got wonderful art to go with this. Monsters, you know, obstacles, some things, you know, what have you. And it's just a good old classic, you know, fantasy, dark fantasy artwork. Nothing exaggerated like Pathfinder or World of Warcraft. It's straight to the point. And let's see. Oh yes, the character cards. Now, I was wondering where these come in. These are samples of the cards. And what's interesting is that you choose one of these, and this tells you everything. It tells you who they are. You're not playing a fighter. You're not playing a thief, or you're not playing a you know, wizard or anything. You're playing ordinary people throughout the land. The miller, the cook, the smith, what have you. But also, as interesting about the artwork is this is their stats. This tells you this way it tells you how powerful they are in any attribute. You know, like I think this is might, this is cunning, this is wisdom, if I got that correct from the instructions. And of course, if you know, that means that on their dice they'll have Taylor will have 4 marks in this one attribute. They'll have 3 marks here and 1 in might. Of course, if you're counting this, they're on 6-sided dice, but trust me, as explained, because one side will have at least 2 marks. And we'll show you how that works. You got the Tanner and so forth. I think I left a couple more on there, but still, it's a beautiful arrangement of art to go with this game. So, and the item cards themselves, I probably, you know, I'll open up later. But there you go. So let me see if I can set up, you know, show you a sample game of this. Okay, so I have all the characters put over here. Sorry if I can't squeeze them all perfectly into this. I don't have much room for camera space, but everybody's here. You have 6 characters to choose from in the basic box game. You have the abbot, the cook, the miller, the smith, the tailor, and the tanner. And you also notice, as I stated before, their attributes are located here. The fist represents might, the eye is is cunning, and the star represents wisdom. And now they each have their own mark. So as you choose your characters, you know, if one chooses might, you might want to choose someone that has a good cunning or wisdom to try and balance it out to increase your odds. Why is this a deal? Well, this tells you how many marks. Like, say for instance, the cook here has 3 in might, 4 in might, 3 in cunning, 1 in wisdom. And on their dice, you can see 1 might, and let's see, you know, 2. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So on a 6-sided dice, that's how you get all 4 of those in here. She has, you know, 1, 2, 3, and you know, and there's her 1 wisdom. So that just tells you how good they are, and it tells you their odds of rolling those attributes. Some will obviously not be good in some attributes than others. You know, one would not be good as might because they only have 1 on there, but one has 4 marks on their dice to increase their chances. So yeah, choose a character as the prisoner you are playing as you leave, and when you do, you can set up the game and, you know, begin the game. Okay, to set up the castle as you play the game, you take your chapter cards and you're going to shuffle them, which I already did, and you're going to put them in face down 15 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this will dictate what I'm going to face throughout my escape through the Dark Castle. He plays this out like this, but it's not done yet. You have the first card, that's where every prisoner escapes, and then you choose out your boss cards. There are 3 here. Expansions will contain 1 more, and and I think there's an extra box set to hold your cards in, which will contain 3 more. But we only got 3 in this case. So you choose one at random, and I choose this one. And we're going to put this on the bottom. This is your boss battle. All right, so here you are. There's your characters. I'm going to put them aside. Sorry you can't see them too well. Again, I don't have so much, but I have selected the Smith and I have selected the Tanner. So I'm going to put these down here and just move up front and so forth. Normally you turn the card like you would a book. So actually I'll move these like so. Probably get a better sight there. So there you go. You set up your castle and you're ready to play. Now, the starting hit points for each of your characters here will depend on how many players are in a game. If you're on 1 to 2 players, you could play. You have 18 hit points. If you're playing 3, you have 14 hit points. And if you're playing 4, you have 12. Notice that it goes down for more players come in. That's yeah, it does add a bit of dread to that, but you make up for that for more dice to roll to go through your obstacles, hence increasing your chances of passing them. So, let's begin again. Okay, so I got my castle set up here. I've chosen 2 characters, a Tanner and a Smith. I'm using 6-sided dice, so I don't use the paper that's given in the game. And since it has 2 players, they start at 18 life points. Got a deck of item cards already shuffled and ready to go. I'm going to go about a few rounds of there. I don't want to go through a whole game, so that way you at least have an idea on how simple this is and how this is played out. Due to lack of room here, I'm going to set the character cards aside so I can bring this forward. Now, let's begin. And you start with the first card. Turn it over. Let me see. Let's read this. You got. After years of incarceration and deaths at a dark castle, you finally break free of your cell. In a small stone room adjoining the cell block stands an old wooden chest. The lock is open. Draw an item card per player now. You hear footsteps approaching. You must not linger here. You make for the exit, slipping away and disappearing into darkness. So, after escaping your cell, you get item cards for each player. I have 2, so I draw 2 cards. Let's see what the first one is. Aha. Warped Cudgel. Weapon, one-handed. Once per round of combat, when you roll might, you may roll again and choose which of the 2 results apply. I'm going to give this to the Smith because might is his strongest attribute, and there may be times where might may not be needed. I may need one of the other attributes to roll. So if I give this to him, I'll have a higher probability of rolling 1, and therefore if I need to, I could roll it again and see if I can get the other attribute that I want. So next one and we have partially rotten apple, restore 1 HP. I could give this to the Tanner, or I could just give it to her. Now each character can carry 2 items per person. You can think of it 1 of each hand. You can you get items usually between chapters or whenever the chapter card says you can. With that said, at the end of a chapter you can swap items or what have you. You can say, hey, this cudgel may go to this character, or this one needs an apple so they can heal life, what have you. But you can't trade during the events of a chapter. Now, if you have more item cards and characters can carry, that's when you may have to make a critical decision to trade off and discard any extras. So let's continue with the next round. Okay, this is the next one. And the next chapter here. Aha. So here we got a very interesting situation. We got a treasure chest involving around all these traps. At the end of this winding passage, a wooden chest covered in cobwebs and protected by a gauntlet of vicious-looking traps. As a group, choose one option. You can move on. It's not worth the risk. Turn the next chapter card. You could risk it, nominate a player and try to retrieve items from the chest. They must roll cunning, that's the I, in one attempt, and may try this as many times as there are players. And okay, if I succeed, doing an I could draw an item. If I roll a double cunning, then I get 2. If I fail, then I can nominate nominated player loses 2 hit points. So if my understanding of the rules here, I could roll this twice. If I fail the first time, I could roll again. But if I fail that one, then I get to lose 2 points. But if I get one cunning, I get an item. If I get 2, the double one, then I'll definitely get 2 items. So, well, my Smith only has 1 cunning here. So, but my Tanner has 3. So let's see what she can do here. So we roll. Let's see if we roll good. Oh, lucky me. I rolled 2 cunning. So I get to roll 2, I get to draw 2 cards. Lucky me. Let's see what this one is. Now partial rotten apple. I'll give that one to the Smith. And the other one here, another one. So I have 3 apples to help me heal up my HP whenever I decide to use it. All right, so that turned out very fortunate. Risk is, with high risk comes good reward. And if you know your characters, you'll be able to have a higher probability of getting through. So on to the next round. All right, so the next chapter card is this. Aha! Now here we're going to do an example of combat. Let's see. As you turn a corner and step right into the path of 2 guards, they exchange a puzzled look, then lunge to restrain you. As a group, choose an option. You can flee, force your way past them, but not before taking several glancing blows. Each character loses 1 HP. Or you can fight, begin combat. Now, let's use this as an example of how combat is. If you could sacrifice an HP to skip the chapter, but let's take a chance and let's do this. Now, for combat, you'll have these symbols right here, and that they're usually represented by these dice that represent the in essence, the hit points of the monster or opponent you're attacking. Now, and this is right here in the corner here. That tells how much damage it gives back in turn if it survives your round of combat. Now, sometimes they'll have symbols of it'll show you this, so you put 1 dice to represent that, or or the eye, or the might, and they also have this symbol, which is a player symbol. What that means is that each player rolls their die, and whatever they roll, that's how much extra dice that represents the creature's life points that they have. So in this case, all it has is a player symbol. So let's roll the Tanner. So they have an eye. So we put that down here. And for the Smith, the might. So we need to get a might, and we need to get a cunning in order to defeat this opponent. So in rounds of combat, each character rolls a die. If you roll a matching symbol, like say, if I roll this, that cancels out the eye, and therefore they have the might left. Remove all the dice there, this method, and you will win the combat. If by chance you roll this is double the attribute, and that can take up to 2 if there's 2 of them on monster, and the shield represents that the character will not take damage from the opponent. Another thing about combat is that every round of combat, 1 character can choose to rest, and by resting they don't take damage or receive damage, and the benefit of that is that they gain 1 hit point back. So they're both in full health. Smith's got the cudgel, and they got rotten apples to use in case they need to heal. And there's also resting. So let's begin round combat. Let's it's all done at the same time. So let's do the Smith. Yep, got a eye right here that cancels out this. And now we have to see if we get the might by Tanner. Oop, nope, she didn't, but she rolled the shield, so she doesn't take damage. All right, so that's the first round of combat, and she doesn't take damage. She rolled the shield. However, the Smith goes from 18 to 17 hit points, which I'll roll the here. So next round. Now, better chance now because the Smith can roll might more often than the Tanner could. So let's begin. Double might. and that removes, one of those. If there was 2 might, I could take 2 off, but that's not the case. So now that we defeated the opponent, we do not have to worry about the damage is done to him. Oh, by the way, I said set 1 point. It's actually 2 points, so it's actually down to 16. All right. And because we won that run of combat here, we could draw another item card. Now, by the way, I'm going to probably use this apple right here to heal a point back up to 17. So that way I could draw a card and I could give it to him or trade it with whoever needs it. Yep. And of course, I didn't shuffle these very well by getting these rotten apples here. So, all right, so we're back where we were. Very nice. So that's the end of this round. Let's go one more round here. Okay, so here we go, another round here. Let's see what we got. Oh, I almost forgot. I should have done this. A lot of times you're supposed to pick when you flip on the next card, you gotta designate a character to be the one to open the door, so to speak. There are consequences that can happen that can happen to the character opening next chapter card, and not to the other characters. You open the door and there's a trap. You open the door and the monster there deals immediate damage or does something bad to you that will not affect the other characters throughout the combat. That sort of thing. Alright, so let's choose the Tanner to open this door. She's at full health, and what have you. Everyone's armed. Let's go and see what happens. Alright. Oh, very fearsome looking specter of some kind with a scythe. You sense something strange in this chamber. There is a sudden drop in temperature and the air grows still. Then you see it. As a group, choose one option. You can flee. The specter steals part of your souls and you lose 2 HP. Fight, begin combat. And there's a special about this one. You notice it's in the bold letters. In other words, that's the person who opened the door, are terrified, and you might roll this and your might roll is in this chapter has no effect. I kind of lucked out on this one because her might is the weakest attribute. She only has 1. Her strongest one would be her wisdom, and second is her cunning. If I've chosen the smith, he's the one with 3 might. And with the cudgel and all that, it would disaffect him greatly in this. So you gotta take some chances here. So let's go ahead and fight. He does 1 damage per round that he survives in. He's got a might skill already here, and he's got the player character, so 2 more for each of the characters played. So, all right, so we got our strength, and for the Tanner, okay, so we got a cunning. So 2 strength total, and and a cunning. So this is what I got to roll to defeat this opponent. Alright, round 1. Let's see what we can do here. Tanner. Okay, she rolled a might. It does nothing. However, the smith, let's see what he can do. Alright, so he's got the eye, so that removes one of these. Since the Spectre still survives, he deals 1 damage to each of them. So that brings him down to, let's see, 16. Where is it? Right there. And that brings her down to 17. Alright, round 2. Let's see, make sure I get my Tanner goes again. And of course, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to have her rest. The reason why is, she can't do anything with her might, and that's what she has to roll. So by resting, she won't take damage, but will also heal up her points back to 18. Alright, so now it's up to the smith. Alright, let's give it a go. Okay, that does nothing, so he takes a point of damage and is now down to 15. Alright, so moving on. So, let's see. And, okay. Probably going to have her rest again. She won't heal up damage because she can't go beyond your maximum amount of starting level, so it's up to the smith again. Well, he's got a shield. It's not the might, but it has the 2 stars on it, which is the wisdom, but he's protected this round, so he won't get damage from it. So next round. Okay, 1 of these, so that takes this off. and I didn't. Oh yeah, basically I have her rest again, so she doesn't take damage. But then he takes a damage going from 15 to 14. All right, let's see if he can do it one more round. 2 of these. Takes that last one off. If I rolled this before, that would have taken both of them off and would have inspired the damage. But now that the monster is defeated, I don't get any more damage. I'm going to go ahead and, now it's the end of the chapter, I'm going to use this apple to heal a point to 15 again. Alright. And I get an item card. So let's see what we've got here. Another rotten apple. I didn't really shuffle this well. Okay. So there is your option. That's a few rounds of sample play to this. Now, I kind of admit, seeing how this turned out, it makes it look like it's simple and therefore easy. If I did things shuffle more thoroughly, and if you have more players making their own choices, it will most likely be more difficult. And when you get to the boss battle, it goes very difficult. It could definitely up the challenge. So there you go. There's a few examples of gameplay. Let's go over the overall and see what you think. You may notice that in this video, you are hearing background music. I normally don't put this in my videos except for the beginning intros and slideshows, and usually no bother, but I am in this case because to add more atmosphere to this, the creators of this game has made a soundtrack which you can quickly buy off Amazon for $10, 6 tracks, and as official soundtrack to this game. You could just play it in the background on repeat, and it adds a wonderful atmosphere to this game. If you want to set up a game night or on a Halloween party, you play this, and it just adds a wonderful effect to it. It's nice, ominous ambient music there, very haunting as it should be, and it's a wonderful addition to this. I went ahead and got this and started to play a few tracks there, and hopefully inspire you to get it if you don't have music of your own. So look into that. I'll link it down below if you are so interested. If you just want background music in general, $10, very nice for nearly an hour's worth. So there's the music, right? So there's the music aspect of it. So there you go. Escape the Dark Castle, created by Themborn, Games, and interesting, way that they've set up here. As I say, it's very simple to set up. I mean, yeah, it may seem kind of long, but once you get the basics there, you can set the castle up in a second, choose your character, and begin like that. Now, I didn't show you all the cards because I want to surprise you with some of this. Some of the artworks, not only, as you can see, some of what I've already shown, very, wonderful old-fashioned black and white art they used to use in games like Hero Quest and all that. But some of it also is a little bit grotesque, not the full body horror like extreme ones, but just enough to, get to the wonderful dark fantasy and feel of this. So yes, the basic game right here could run about, give or take, $30, depending on the retailer or wherever you buy it from. But they've made expansions about this. So as I said, you get the first one, the Cult of the Plague Knight, introduces 3 new characters, new chapter cards, enough to play the chapter cards by themselves in its own separate castle. New boss, of course, the Death Knight here, and 3 new characters with their own corresponding dice. And what's interesting about the 3 characters here, which is they excel in one attribute and have only 1 mark at the other 2. So it's very extreme, definitely up to challenging level. The other expansion pack that I have here, Scourge of the Undead Queen, again, more chapter cards to play with in its own castle, or you can integrate them with the original one. It doesn't have new characters to play, for the players have, but a new item card is added to where you get companions. 3 new companions with their own little stats that you play with them, like extra characters that the players control. They have their own special abilities, but the good news is when they die, the game is not over. You just continue on as long as the original characters are still going. This even has a spell book for situations that could, very much help you or be detrimental to you. The one expansion pack I don't have is the Blight of the Plague Lord. Again, more chapter cards, new boss, of course, and 3 new characters. It also has an interesting plague element or special rule where that could give trouble to characters who contract it. So there you go. As I mentioned, by older games like like Hero Quest as far as the artwork, unlike Hero Quest, you're not playing an adventure or braving it out, by hacking and slash. You're just a simple peasant or just a worker who's caught and trying to escape this dark, hideous, treacherous castle. The closest thing I can think of is the game Shadowgate. The computer game, that's one that was more famous throughout the Nintendo era. My dad and my brothers and we played that all the time, and then they made a remake of it a few days ago. The idea where you just explore Dark Castle, pick up items, search for hints and puzzles and hidden areas to overcome obstacles and attack the wizard. Here it's similar to that, except you're just trying to escape the castle. So music there, you can download that, particularly on Amazon, for $10, or if you have your own ominous haunting music, you can play that. It really adds to the atmosphere of this. I recommend it. Great for for horror themed parties, or just like any sort of game night. It's nothing too complex, or particularly as of the time I brought this out there, right before Halloween. So pick that up. It's not overly expensive, not like $100 games like a lot of board games are. Escape the Dark Castle. Enjoy.